Hello everybody, Robin here, and welcome back to Toadstool Tarot. I got these two decks in the mail recently. I've been very interested in the history of tarot, and the most popular modern deck, I think most would acknowledge, is the Rider-Waite-Smith deck that came out originally in 1909. Later on, the Aleister Crowley, Lady Frida Harris deck came out in, I believe, the 1930s or 40s. But I recently discovered that an earlier deck came out prior to the Rider-Waite-Smith, in modern times, I should say, the late 1800s, and that is the Oswald Wirth Tarot. Before that, we had Marseille decks going back as far as, I believe, the 1400s, but you can do your own research on the history. Anyway, I was intrigued at, the modern view of decks prior to the Order of the Golden Dawn and the design of the Rider-Waite-Smith deck. So I looked into the Oswald Wirth Tarot, and the earliest edition from the late 1800s I don't have, and I actually don't care that much for the design of the cards. It's a little more crude and a little more similar to some of the Marseille decks in terms of the coloring and the artistic values. But the Oswald Wirth deck was redesigned in the 1920s, and again in the 1970s, I believe, which are the two decks here. First of all, I'll show you this Golden Wirth Tarot. I like this very much. I like the style of these drawings, and they remind me very much of old Sunday newspaper comics, the coloring and the art design is very similar to cartoons that were drawn and designed in the 20s and 30s, and the coloring on pulp paper, the inks and the textures of the paper. Also old comic books prior to contemporary graphic novels. This version has some bells and whistles. It was designed by Lo Scarabeo. It's a 22 major arcana deck with multilingual instructions, and it's gilded. The gilding is very interesting. It comes in a really nice sturdy box. And besides this Wirth Tarot being sort of a modern rendering of decks prior to the RWS, it also intrigued me that it was a majors only deck of 22 cards, which I'm personally fascinated with. I have had great success in being able to read with only the major arcana. I don't find that I am fully in need of 78 cards. So I wanted to check this out. Anyway, I don't know if I said already, it comes in a really sturdy knocker of a box, two-part box, lift off top. It comes with a little booklet. The booklet doesn't say very much. There's one paragraph history about Oswald Wirth, and then you have a paragraph for each of the major arcana card interpretations. which is all of about 7 pages, and then the rest of the pages are in multiple languages. There's a portrait of Wirth, and the book is in a little recessed cardboard insert. These are the backs of the cards. The cards are very glossy, which I don't really mind. The only issue is, I don't know if you can see from the angle here, the problem with glossy cards is they tend to sort of retain fingerprints, and depending on how you look at it, that can be a little bit distracting to see your fingerprints all over the cards. These cards are on the large side. As you can see, this is a standard size tarot card, and these are this is the size of the Golden Wirth cards. Looks to be about 1 inch taller and a 1/2 inch wider than usual cards, which makes it difficult for me, particularly, to shuffle. I shuffle overhand. I don't riffle shuffle. The back design is really nice. It's got a double Ouroboros in kind of a tan gold coloring on a dark brown. Quite handsome, actually. The cardstock is fairly substantial. It's not flimsy, but workable. Now, I don't know how well these are going to photograph, but you have beautiful coloring on these cards. They have the labels and the numbers in the bottom corners, and then in the bottom right corner there is a Kabbalistic letter for each card. So this is the Fool. Also, I should show you I don't know if you can see, the background is gilded, but it's also almost sort of holographic. I mean, in one angle you get kind of a flat, shiny gilding, and then if you turn it, you get an almost rainbow-like sparkle effect, which is very handsome, actually. I like these very much. Each card is like a work of art. But, you know, a lot of people will say that about most decks. So this is the Fool, which is a little bit of a kind of a ghastly depiction of the Fool. Sort of a not very sympathetic character. Here we have a rather androgynous young magician. The Papess. I think it's interesting that she's got this yin and yang symbol on this book of knowledge that she's reading, which, you know, this artwork dates back to the 20s, and that seems like a very popular contemporary image. I don't know the history of that image or how far back it dates, but I found that interesting. She's also got 2 keys. One is a key of gold, and the other is regular coloring. Here we have the Empress. Oh, I guess you've noticed by now that the titles are all in French. Wirth was not French. I believe he was Swiss. It doesn't say in the book. Oh, he spent time in Paris working alongside his father, who was a painter. I thought I read somewhere that he was Swiss. I could be wrong. And this is the Emperor, the Pope, the Lover, or Lovers. I'm not sure in French if that's plural or singular. I think it's plural. The Lovers. The Chariot. Justice. These cards are very, very sort of Art Nouveau or Art Deco. I don't know, very elaborate, very ornate. I really love them. The Hermit, this is one of my new favorite Hermit cards. Wheel of Fortune. La Force, or Strength. The Hanged Man. Le Pendu. The Death card, which is unnumbered and unnamed, but obviously the Death card. Number 13 would be. Temperance. The Devil. I find this interesting. Now, the Devil has these two words on the arms, salve and coagula, which I looked up, and it has to do with dissolve and coagulate. I'm probably misparaphrasing that, but to dissolve and then reintegrate in order to attain some semblance of spirituality or something. You can look it up, but I thought it was sort of interesting that you've got these oppositional words that sort of mean kind of to break apart, pull apart, and to put back together, sort of a recombining. You've got male and female demons here. The Tower, or La Maison Dieu, House of God. I love that this little figure is being hit on the head by a brick. That's a little more violent than we usually see in the Tower card, but totally in keeping with what's happening here. We also don't usually see the sun striking the Tower with a bolt of lightning. It's usually a darker card, like from a storm, rather than from the sun, but that's interesting. The Stars. The Moon. One of the prettiest moon cards I've seen too, but very melancholy in that depiction in the face. The Sun. Judgment. And the World. I really love this deck. It's a new favorite. And for comparison's sake, I went and ordered the contemporary Oswald Wirth Tarot with the 1970s illustration. And I also, you can see here, it also is in gold, but it's more gold coloring rather than gold foil stamping. And this is 78 cards, so I'm not sure who redrew these, but they added the minor arcana as well, because those were not from Wirth's original designs. There's also a new deck that I have ordered and is on its way. It's not due to be published in the States until June, but I ordered it from the UK through a book depository because it's already available there, and it's called the Symbolic Wirth Tarot, and that's a 78 card deck, which is closer to the 1929, I believe it's 20s anyway, illustrations, but without the gilding. So, I mean, it does have gold, I believe, probably more like this matte, which in a way is less distracting. And this gold is beautiful, but it also can be distracting when you're looking at the images. This one is by, I think it's US Games. And I'm actually not that fond of this one. It's kind of nice to have, but it's, less, I find it less desirable. The format's a little different. It's about slightly wider than a regular tarot card and about half an inch taller. So the cards are kind of tall and narrow. I don't know if you can see the difference. I won't do a total side by side, but just so you can see in these two cards the difference. The colors in this deck are rather garish. The artwork is much less refined. It's more simplified. There's still some fine line work, but it's a little bit more on the crude side. And the colors are very bright, that sort of pop of 70s kind of sensibility. So we also still have the title and the Kabbalistic or Hebrew character here. And there's numbers in the top, but no number on the Fool because it's an unnumbered card at 0. Oh, and these are the backs. Kind of a nice back. I see these a little bit bowed. The card stock is pretty decent. It's US Games stock. It does have copyright information on the top and bottom. I'll go through these a little more quickly. You can see the artwork is similar to the 1920s version, but like I said, the colors are punchier and it's a little more simplified. Here, it's so crudely done that the details in the faces are completely obliterated. This character doesn't seem to have any pupils. So some of the fine detailing is sort of lost in the reproduction. This makes me quite curious to see how well the newer version, the Symbolic Tarot, is reproduced. I'm hoping it's more like the 1929 one and less like the 1970s one. I mean, this one's okay. It's just, I don't find it as desirable. Okay, here we have the minors, which are pretty. I may bring this deck back when I get the symbolic tarot so you can see the difference in the design detailing. This does have a certain pop appeal in the color and line work. In fact, I think the minors may be better rendered than the majors, although the court cards, you again have these odd expressions where the eyes don't seem to have pupils, and they're colored in skin tones rather than whites of the eyes. A tiny little horse here, and this knight looks almost like a merry-go-round carousel horse. And the hairstyle here looks kind of contemporary too. Some of you might enjoy this these bright pop colors. And as I said, there is gold here. You can see a little bit as I angle it. There's a little bit of reflection, but it's nothing like the gold foiling. It's gold ink, so it's not as reflective. Wands. Now, one thing I noticed that distinguishes this from other Marseille decks is the sword suit depicts straight swords. You usually get that in the ace, but not in the numbered cards. However, they are distinguishable from the wands because you have the hilts on the swords that is readily identifiable. It's not a bad little deck. It's just a little on the kind of garish side. I prefer the 1920s version. So anyway, there you have it. That's the Golden Wirth and the Oswald Wirth Tarot. And I'll be back soon with the symbolic Wirth Tarot. Until then, see you soon.